The metal chains around Zara's wrists felt cold against her blue skin. She stood in the long row of cages on Kepler Station, watching people walk by and look at her like she was nothing more than a piece of meat. Her 4 arms were bound tightly behind her back, and the collar around her neck sent sharp pain through her body every time she moved too much. 3 years had passed since the hegemony soldiers came to her world. 3 years since they killed her parents and took her away from everything she knew. 3 years of being sold from one owner to another, each one worse than the last. The slave market was busy today. Aliens from many different worlds walked through the rows of cages, looking for workers to buy. Some wanted strong slaves for mining. Others wanted pretty ones to serve at parties. Zara had learned to keep her eyes down and stay quiet. Looking up at the buyers only brought trouble. "Move, slave." The hegemony guard hit Zara's back with his shock stick. The electricity made her fall to her knees, but she did not cry out. Crying only made them hit harder. The guard pulled her up and pushed her toward the auction block. It was her turn to be sold again. Zara's legs shook as she walked. She remembered the last auction. The way they made her stand there while strangers talked about her body. The way they poked her arms and checked her teeth like she was an animal. The auction room was full of buyers. Zara could see hegemony traders in their red uniforms. There were tall, thin Vortaki with their gray skin and black eyes. Some short. Fat Burundi sat in the front row, counting their money. All of them looked at her with the same cold stare. "Next item's lot number 47, the auctioneer called out. "Young Altarian female. 4 working arms, strong back. Good for heavy work or personal service. Starting bid is 500 credits. Zara wanted to disappear. She wanted to close her eyes and pretend she was back home on Altair, running through the purple grass fields with her little brother. But those days were gone forever. The bidding started slow. A Vortaki offered 600 credits. A hegemony captain raised it to 700. Zara knew she was not worth much. She had been difficult lately. She refused to smile at buyers. She would not dance or show off her body when they asked. The guards had beaten her many times for this, but she could not help it. Something inside her refused to give up completely. Then she saw him. A human stood at the back of the room. Zara had heard of humans, but never seen one before. He looked different from the other buyers. While they stared at her with cold eyes, his face showed something else. Something that looked almost like sadness. The human was not very tall, with brown skin and short black hair. He wore simple work clothes, not the fancy robes of the rich traders. His hands were rough and calloused, like someone who worked with his hands. But his eyes were kind. Zara had almost forgotten what kind eyes looked like. "Do I hear 800? The auctioneer called. Dot the human raised his hand. 800, he said in a quiet voice. A hegemony trader laughed. 1,000, he said, loudly. This little blue toy will make a fine servant for my ship. Zara felt sick. She knew what happened to slaves on hegemony ships. The stories the other slaves told were horrible. She would rather die than go back to them. The human looked at the hegemony trader, then back at Zara. Something changed in his eyes. They became harder, more determined. 1,500, the human said. The room went quiet. 1,500 credits was a lot of money for a slave like Zara. The other buyers looked surprised. Why would anyone pay so much for a difficult slave? The hegemony trader's face turned red with anger. 2,000, he growled. The human did not hesitate. 2,500. Now everyone was staring at the human. Even the auctioneer looked. Shocked, Zara could not understand what was happening. Why was this strange human willing to pay so much for her? The hegemony trader stood up, his hand moving to his weapon. You dare compete with the hegemony, human? The human did not back down. He looked the traitor right in the eyes. "I dare to buy what I want with my own money," he said calmly. For a moment, Zara thought there might be a fight. The tension in the room was thick, but then the hegemony traitor sat back down. Even he would not start a fight in the middle of Kepler Station. The station guards would throw him out, and he would lose his trading license. "Any other bids?" the auctioneer asked, his voice shaking slightly. The room stayed quiet. 2,500 credits was more than most slaves sold for in a month. "Sold to the human for 2,500 credits, the auctioneer said, hitting his hammer on the desk. Zara felt dizzy. She had been sold again, but this time felt different. The human walked up to pay for her, and she got her first close look at him. He was older than she first thought, maybe 40 human years. His face had lines around his eyes, but they were the kind of lines that came from smiling, not from being cruel. When he got close enough, he looked right at her. "My name is Jake," he said softly. "I know you're scared, but I promise you, things are going to be different now." Zara did not believe him. She had heard promises before. They were always lies, but something in his voice was different. Something that made her want to hope, even though hope had only brought her pain before. The guards unlocked her cage and pushed her toward Jake. She stumbled, expecting him to grab her roughly like all the others did. Instead, he gently steadied her with his hand on her shoulder. "Easy," he said. "We have time." As they walked out of the auction house, Zara looked back at the other slaves still in their cages. Their eyes followed her, wondering what would happen to the blue girl who just got bought by a human. She wondered the same thing. Jake led her through the busy streets of Kepler Station toward the docking bay. Zara had walked these streets many times before, always in chains, always going from one owner to another. But this time felt different somehow. "Are you hungry?" Jake asked as they walked. The question surprised her. No owner had ever asked. She was hungry before. They fed her when they remembered, or when they needed her to work. She nodded carefully, not sure if this was some kind of test. "We'll get you something good to eat once we're on my ship," Jake said. "Real food, not that paste they give slaves." Zara's stomach growled at the thought of real food. She had not eaten anything but nutrient paste for months. But she tried not to get excited. This kindness would not last. It never did. Soon enough, this human would show his true nature, and she would learn what he really wanted from her. But as they walked toward his ship, Zara could not help but notice that Jake had not put any chains on her. Her wrists were still bound, but he had not added the walking chains that connected to his belt. He trusted her not to run away. Where would she run to anyway? She had no money, no friends, no family left alive. At least with this human, she might find out what made him different from all the others. As they reached the docking bay, Zara saw Jake's ship for the first time. It was not big or fancy like the hegemony warships. It looked like a working ship, built for carrying cargo across the galaxy. The name painted on the side read, "Starbound Wanderer." Jake stopped at the ship's ramp and turned to look at her. "Zara," he said, as she was surprised he knew her name. "I want you to know something before we go inside. I didn't buy you to own you. I bought you to free you." Zara stared at him in confusion. The words made no sense. Nobody bought slaves to free them. It was impossible. It was crazy, but as Jake led her up the ramp into his ship, Zara felt something she had not felt in 3 years. She felt hope. Jake's ship was small but clean. Zara followed him through the narrow hallways, her chains making soft clinking sounds with each step. She kept her eyes down, waiting for him to tell her where to sleep and what work she would do. All ships had slave quarters, usually dark. cramped spaces near the engine room where the air was hot and hard to breathe. But Jake did not lead her to the engine room. Instead, he stopped at a small cabin with a real bed and a window showing the stars outside. "This is your room," Jake said, opening the door. Zara looked inside, confused. The room had a soft bed with clean sheets. There was a small desk and chair. The walls were painted a warm yellow color. It looked like a room for a person, not a slave. "I don't understand," Zara said quietly. It was the first time she had spoken since the auction. Jake smiled, but it was a sad smile. "I know you don't. That's okay. We have time for you to understand." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small tool. Zara flinched, thinking it might be a weapon or punishment device. But when Jake moved toward her, she saw it was just a key for her chains. "Hold still," Jake said gently. "I'm going to take these off." Zara's eyes went wide with fear. "No, please," she whispered. "I've been good. I haven't tried to run. Please don't punish me." Jake stopped moving. His face looked sad and angry at the same time, but Zara could tell the anger was not for her. "Zara, listen to me," Jake said, his voice very gentle. "I am not going to punish you. I am going to take off your chains, because no person should wear chains. Do you understand?" Zara shook her head. She did not understand at all. Slaves always wore chains. It was the law. It was how things worked. Without chains, how would Jake control her? How would he make sure she did not run away or fight back? "I'm scared," Zara admitted. "I know," Jake said. "But I need you to trust me just a little bit. Can you do that?" Zara looked at his kind eyes. Something inside her, something that had been quiet for 3 years, whispered that maybe this human was different. Maybe she could trust him just this once. She nodded slowly. Jake moved very carefully, like he was trying not to scare or hurt animal. He unlocked the chains around her wrists first. When the metal fell away, Zara gasped. She had worn those chains for so long that her wrists felt strange without them. The skin underneath was scarred and raw. "We'll take care of those wounds," Jake said, looking at her wrists. "But first, let's get that collar off." The collar was the worst part. It was heavy and tight, and it could shock her if she disobeyed. Every slave wore one. It was the mark of what they were. Jake's fingers were gentle as he worked on the lock. When the collar finally came off, Zara felt like she could breathe for the first time in years. She touched her neck with her hands, hardly believing the collar was really gone. "There," Jake said, putting the chains and collar on the floor. "Now, you're free." Zara stared at him. "Free?" The word felt strange in her mouth. "But you bought me. You own me now." Jake shook his head. "No, Zara. I bought you, but I don't own you. Nobody can own another person. That's not how it should work." "But the law says," Zara started to say. "The law is wrong," Jake said firmly. "Just because something is legal doesn't make it right. Humans learned that lesson a long time ago." Zara sat down on the bed because her legs felt weak. Everything Jake was saying went against everything she had been taught. Slaves were property. They belonged to their owners. They had no rights, no choices, no freedom. That was just how the galaxy worked. "I don't understand," she said again. Jake pulled the chair over and sat down across from her. He was careful to keep some distance between them, like he knew she was still scared. "Let me tell you about humans," Jake said. "A long time ago, my people did terrible things. We had slaves too. We bought and sold people just like the other races do now. But we learned that it was wrong. We learned that every thinking being has value, has rights, has the freedom to choose their own life. But if everyone is free, who does the work?" Zara asked. "Who serves the food and cleans the ships and mines the ore?" "People do," Jake said. but they choose to do it. We pay them money for their work. They can quit if they want to. They can say no if they don't like how they're treated. That's what freedom means, the right to choose. Zara's head hurt trying to understand this. But I'm not human. I'm just a slave. Jake's eyes got very serious. You are not just anything. Zara, you are a person. You have thoughts and feelings and dreams. You deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. You deserve to be free. A tear ran down Zara's cheek. She could not remember the last time someone had said she deserved anything good. Why? She whispered. Why are you being kind to me? What do you want from me? I don't want anything from you, Jake said. I want things for you. I want you to be safe. I want you to be happy. I want you to remember what it feels like to choose your own path. Zara cried then, really cried for the first time in years. All the pain and fear and loneliness came pouring out. Jake did not try to stop her or tell her to be quiet. He just sat there and let her cry until she had no more tears left. When she finally stopped, Jake handed her a soft cloth to wipe her face. Are you hungry? He asked. Zara nodded. She was always hungry. Slaves only got enough food to keep them. Alive and working, Jake led her to the ship's small kitchen. It was nothing fancy, but it was clean and warm. He opened a cabinet and showed her shelves full of real food, fruit, vegetables, meat, bread, things Zara had not seen in years. What would you like? Jake asked. The question confused her again. What do you want me to eat? She asked back. No. Jake said patiently. What do you want to eat? What sounds good to you? Zara stared at all the food. She could not remember the last time someone had asked what she wanted. Masters told slaves what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat. Slaves did not get to choose. I don't know, she said honestly. Jake smiled and started taking things out of the cabinet. How about we make something together? Do you remember any foods from your homeworld? Zara's heart ached thinking about home. We had purple fruits that were sweet, she said quietly, and bread that my mother made with seeds on top. I don't have purple fruits, Jake said, but I have some sweet berries and bread with seeds. Will that work? Zara nodded, amazed that he cared about what she wanted to eat. They made a simple meal together. Jake let Zara help, showing her where things were and how to use the cooking tools. When they sat down to eat, Zara waited for Jake to tell her how much she could have. Eat as much as you want, Jake said, seeing her confusion. The food was the best thing Zara had tasted in years. She ate slowly, afraid that if she ate too fast, Jake would take it away. But he just ate his own food and sometimes told her stories about places he had been and people he had met. After dinner, Jake showed her how the shower worked and gave her clean clothes to wear. The clothes were simple but soft and warm. They fit her forearms properly, which was something she had not had in a long time. When it was time to sleep, Jake showed her how to lock her room from the inside. You can lock the door if it makes you feel safer, he said. Nobody will come in without your permission. Zara stared at the lock. Slaves were never allowed to lock doors. They had no privacy, no safety, no place that was just theirs. What if you need me for something? She asked. Then I'll knock and ask if you're willing to help, Jake said. But you could always say no. That night, Zara lay in the soft bed and stared out the window at the stars. For the first time in 3 years, she was not chained to a wall or locked in a cage. She was in a real room with a real bed, and she could lock the door if she wanted to. But she was still scared. This kindness felt too good to be true. In her experience, when masters were nice, it was because they wanted something. They would be kind for a while, and then they would hurt you worse than before. Zara touched her neck where the collar used to be. Her skin felt strange without it. She kept expecting to feel the sharp shock that came when she did something wrong. But there was no collar now. No chains. No bars on the windows. Maybe Jake was telling the truth. Maybe he really did want to help her. But even if he did, Zara did not know how to be free. She had been a slave for so long that she had forgotten how to make choices for herself. Outside her window, the stars looked different than they had from the slave quarters. They looked brighter somehow, like they were calling to her, promising adventures and possibilities she had never dreamed of. For the first time in 3 years, Zara fell asleep without being afraid of what tomorrow would bring. She was still confused and scared, but she was also something else, something she had almost forgotten how to be. She was hopeful. Zara woke up confused. The bed was too soft, the room too bright. For a moment, she panicked, thinking she had overslept and would be punished. Then she remembered. She was on Jake's ship, and there was no master to punish her for sleeping in. A real bed. She got dressed quickly and went to find Jake. Her old habits were hard to break. Slaves had to report to their masters first thing every morning to get their orders for the day. Jake was in the kitchen, making breakfast. He looked up when she came in and smiled. "Good morning, Zara. Did you sleep well?" She nodded and stood there waiting for him to tell her what to do. But Jake just kept cooking. "Are you hungry?" he asked. "Yes, master," Zara said automatically. Jake stopped cooking and turned to look at her. His face was kind but serious. "Zara, you don't have to call me master. My name is Jake. Can you try saying that?" "But you own me," Zara said, confused. "No, I don't," Jake said patiently. "Remember what we talked about yesterday? You're free. Now, free people don't have masters." Zara tried to understand, but it was hard. "What should I call you then?" "Just Jake," he said. "That's my name." "Jake," Zara repeated slowly. It felt strange to say a master's name without any title. They ate breakfast together, and Jake asked her what she wanted to do that day. The question confused Zara. Slaves did not get to choose what they did. They followed orders. "What do you want me to do?" she asked. Jake set down his fork and looked at her. "Zara, I need you to understand something. I'm not going to give you orders. You get to decide how you spend your time. What would you like to do?" Zara felt scared. Making choices was dangerous. What if she chose wrong? What if Jake got angry and decided to put the chains back on her? "I don't know," she whispered. Jake's voice was gentle. "That's okay. Learning to make choices takes time. How about I show you around the ship, and you can see if anything interests you?" Jake gave her a tour of the Starbound Wanderer. It was a cargo ship, he explained, used for carrying goods from one planet to another. He showed her the engine room, the storage areas, the pilot's cabin, and the common areas. "I usually travel alone," Jake said as they walked through the ship. "But it gets lonely sometimes." "It would be nice to have company. Don't you have other slaves?" Zara asked. "I don't have any slaves," Jake said firmly. "I've never owned a slave, and I never will. Humans don't do that." "But you bought me," Zara pointed out. "I bought you to free you," Jake said. "There's a difference." They reached the pilot's cabin, and Zara stared at all the controls and screens. She had never seen anything so complicated. "It looks hard," she said. "It is, at first," Jake agreed. "But once you learn it, flying a ship is one of the most beautiful things you can do. You get to travel between the stars and see amazing places." Something in his voice made Zara look at him more closely. "Do you like flying?" Jake smiled, and his whole face lit up. "I love it. I've been flying ships since I was 17 years old. There's nothing like being out here among the stars, free to go wherever you want. Free Zara repeated. That word again. She was beginning to think it might be the most important word Jake knew. Over the next few days, Jake was very patient. With her? When she asked permission to eat, he gently reminded her that she did not need permission. When she tried to clean his boots, he told her that free people took care of their own boots. When she offered to sleep on the floor because the bed was too good for a slave, he sat down and explained again that she was not a slave anymore. It was hard for Zara to believe. She had been trained to think of herself as property for so long that thinking of herself as a person felt impossible. But Jake never got angry with her, even when she forgot and called him master. He just gently corrected her and kept treating her with kindness. One day, Jake was working on some repairs in the engine room. Zara watched him struggle with a part that was hard to reach. I could help, she said quietly. Jake looked up at her. You want to help? Zara nodded. My arms are smaller than yours. I could reach that part. Jake smiled. I would appreciate the help, but only if you want to do it. You don't have to. I want to, Zara said, and she was surprised to realize it was true. She did want to help Jake, not because she was ordered to, but because he had been kind to her. Working on the ship together became a regular thing. Jake taught her about engines and computers and navigation systems. Zara was a fast learner, and she found that she enjoyed understanding how things worked. You're very smart, Jake told her one day after she figured out a complex repair on her own. Zara looked down at her hands. Slaves aren't supposed to be smart. Smart slaves cause trouble. You're not a slave, Jake said for what felt like the 100th time. And being smart is a good thing. Intelligence is a gift. One evening, they were sitting in the common area after dinner. Jake was reading something on a tablet, and Zara was looking out the window at the stars. Jake, she said quietly. Yes? Why? Did you buy me? Really? Jake set down his tablet and looked at her. You want the honest answer? Zara nodded. When I saw you on that auction block, something about you reminded me of my daughter, Jake said. She would be about your age now, if she was still alive. What happened to her? Zara asked. Jake's face got sad. She died when she was 12, a sickness that the doctors couldn't cure. Her name was Maria, and she had the same look in her eyes that you had, like she was fighting to stay strong even when everything was terrible. Zara felt sorry for Jake. She knew what it was like to lose family. I'm sorry, she said. Thank you, Jake said. When I saw you being hurt by that guard, I couldn't walk away. I couldn't let another young person suffer if I had the power to. Stop it. So you saved me because I reminded you of your daughter? I saved you because you deserve to be saved, Jake said. Every person does. But yes, seeing you hurt reminded me of Maria, and it made me angry, really angry. Zara was quiet for a while, thinking about this. Do you think your daughter would have liked me? Jake smiled, but it was a sad smile. She would have loved you. Maria always stood up for people who were being treated unfairly. She would have been proud of how strong you are. I don't feel strong, Zara admitted. I feel scared most of the time. Being scared doesn't mean you're not strong, Jake said. You've survived 3 years of terrible treatment, and you haven't given up. That takes incredible strength. A few days later, something happened that tested Zara's growing confidence. They were passing through a busy space station to get supplies when a hegemony patrol ship stopped them. Stay hidden, Jake told Zara urgently. Don't come out no matter what you hear. Zara hid in her room while Jake dealt with the hegemony officers. She could hear their voices through the walls, but she could not understand all the words. What she did understand made her blood run cold. We're looking for stolen property, one of the officers said. A blue-skinned Altarian female goes by. The name Zara. Haven't seen anyone like that, Jake said calmly. You were on Kepler Station 3 weeks ago, another officer said. Someone matching that description was sold there. The buyer was described as human. There are a lot of humans on Kepler Station, Jake replied. And I don't buy slaves. There was a long pause. Then one of the officers said, Mind if we search your ship? Actually, I do mind, Jake said. Unless you have a warrant, this is my private property. Zara held her breath. She knew how the hegemony treated people who refused their requests. But after what felt like forever, she heard the officers leaving. When Jake came to her room later, Zara was shaking. They were looking for me, she said. Yes, Jake said honestly. But they didn't find you. What if they come back? What if they search the ship next time? Jake sat down across from her. Zara, I need to tell you something. What we're doing, what I did when I bought you, it's not exactly legal according to galactic law. Zara stared at him. You broke the law for me? The law says you're property, Jake said. But I don't believe in that law. Some laws are wrong, and it's right to break them. But you could get in trouble. You could go to prison. Maybe, Jake said, but I couldn't live with myself if I had walked away and left you there. Zara felt something new growing inside her chest. It was warm and strong and made her want to cry happy tears instead of sad ones. She thought it might be love, not the kind between a man and woman, but the kind between family members who cared about each other. Thank you, she whispered. You don't have to thank me, Jake said. You just have to live. You have to be free and happy and become the person you were meant to be. That night, Zara made her first real choice as a free person. She decided that she wanted to learn to fly the ship, not because Jake told her to, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She wanted to know what it felt like to travel between the stars with the power to go anywhere she chose. When she told Jake the next morning, his smile was brighter than she had ever seen it. I would love to teach you, he said. But are you sure? Learning to fly is hard work. I'm sure, Zara said, and for the first time since her capture, she really was sure of something. I want to learn to be free. 3 months later, Jake's ship landed on Sanctuary Prime. Zara looked out the window at the planet below and felt nervous. She had gotten used to life on the ship with just Jake. The idea of meeting new people scared her. Are you ready? Jake asked gently. Zara touched her neck where the collar used to be. It was a habit she had developed when she felt scared. Will there be other humans here? Yes, Jake said, and some aliens too. All of them are friends. All of them understand what you've been through. The spaceport on Sanctuary Prime looked normal from the outside, but Zara noticed something different right away. There were no slave markets, no cages, no guards with shock sticks. People walked around freely, talking and laughing without fear. A woman came to meet them as they left the ship. She was human, with dark skin and kind eyes. She moved carefully when she saw Zara, not making any sudden movements. This must be Zara, the woman said with a warm smile. I'm Lisa Chun. Jake has told me a lot about you. Zara looked at Jake nervously. You talked about me? Only good things, Jake assured her. Lisa helps people who have been through what you've been through. Lisa led them through the spaceport to a building that looked like a school or hospital. Inside, Zara saw something that made her stop walking. There were dozens of people from different alien races, all sitting together, talking and eating. But none of them wore collars. None of them had chains. They're all former slaves, Lisa explained softly. Every person here was once owned by someone else. Now they're all free. A young male with green skin and 3 eyes waved at them from across the room. An older female with purple feathers on her arms smiled and nodded. A group of children from different races were playing together near the windows. How many? Zara whispered. We've helped over 3,000 people in the last 5 years, Lisa said with pride. And the number grows every month. Zara could not believe it. 3,000 slaves, all freed, all living without chains. Lisa showed them to a quiet office, where they could talk. Jake tells me you've made amazing progress, she said to Zara. How are you feeling about being free? It's still hard sometimes, Zara admitted. I keep expecting someone to put the chains back on me. That's normal, Lisa said. Freedom is scary when you've never had it before, but you're safe here. Everyone on this planet understands what you've been through. Over the next few days, Zara met more people with stories like hers. There was Marcus, a human who had been captured by pirates as a child and sold into slavery. He had escaped after 10 years and now helped other humans who had been taken. There was Vera, an alien, with silver skin who had been a slave for 15 years before a human trader bought her and set her free. There was even a former slave owner named Tom who had changed his mind after meeting humans and now used his money to buy slaves just to free them. Humans are different, Vera explained to Zara one evening as they sat in the garden behind the center. Most races in the galaxy think slavery is normal, but humans see it as evil. They can't stand to watch someone else suffer. But why? Zara asked. What makes them different? Their history, said Marcus. Humans had slavery on their own world long ago, but they fought a war to end it. They learned that owning people was wrong, and they never forgot that lesson. Zara met Dr. Susan Wright, a human doctor who specialized in helping former slaves deal with their trauma. Dr. Wright was patient and kind, and she helped Zara understand why she still felt scared sometimes. Your mind is trying to protect you, Dr. Wright explained. For years, being careful and afraid kept you alive. Your brain doesn't understand yet that you're safe now. It takes time to retrain those thoughts. Dr. Wright taught Zara exercises to help when she felt panicked. She learned how to breathe slowly when her heart started racing. She learned that her feelings were normal and that healing took time. The center had a library full of books and computer files about different worlds and cultures. Zara spent hours reading about her home planet, Altair. She had almost forgotten some of the customs and stories from her childhood. Reading about them made her feel connected to her past again, but in a good way this time. Your culture is beautiful, said Jake one day when he found her reading about Altarian art. I'd love to visit your world someday. It's not safe, Zara said sadly. The hegemony still controls it. Maybe not forever, Jake said. Things can change. One day, Lisa took Zara to a secret meeting in the basement of the center. There were about 20 people there, mostly humans, but some aliens too. They were all talking quietly about ships and routes and something called extraction operations. What is this? Zara asked. This is the real work we do here, Lisa explained. Sanctuary Prime isn't just a place for former slaves to heal. It's the headquarters for a network that rescues slaves from all over the galaxy. Jake stood up to address the group. I got word from my contact on Nexus Station, he said. There's going to be a big slave auction next week. Over 200 people, including some children. The room got very quiet. Zara could see anger and sadness on every face. We can't save them all, said a human woman named Kate. We don't have enough money or ships. Then we save who we can, said Marcus firmly. Every life matters. They spent the next hour planning. Some people would go to the auction to buy slaves and free them. Others would wait at safe houses along escape routes. Still others would provide money and supplies. What about the authorities? Asked Vera. What if we get caught? We're careful, Lisa said. And we have friends in some governments who look the other way. But yes, there's always risk. After the meeting, Zara walked with Jake through the colony's streets. She was thinking hard about what she had seen and heard. "How long have you been doing this?" she asked. "About 6 years," Jake said. "Ever since I saw my first slave market and realized how wrong it was." "You could have just ignored it," Zara pointed out. "You could have pretended you didn't see." Jake stopped walking and looked at her. "Could you walk past someone being hurt and do nothing? Could you see a child in chains and just keep going?" Zara thought about it. Before her capture, she might have said yes. But now, after everything she had been through, she knew the answer. "No, I couldn't. That's why we do this work," Jake said. "Because once you really understand what freedom means, you can't stand to see others without it." 3 weeks into their stay on Sanctuary Prime, alarms started ringing throughout the colony. Lisa's voice came over the communication system. "This is not a drill. Hegemony ships have been detected approaching the planet. All residents report to emergency stations immediately." Zara felt terror grip her heart. The Hegemony had found them. People moved quickly but calmly through the colony. This was clearly something they had planned for. Children were taken to underground shelters. Important files were loaded onto ships that would escape if necessary. Weapons were distributed to those who knew how to use them. What about the people? Who can't fight? Zara asked Jake as they helped evacuate the medical center. "They'll be taken to safety," Jake said. "But some of us have to stay and protect this place. Too many people depend on it." The Hegemony ships landed outside the colony within an hour. Soldiers in red armor surrounded the buildings. Their leader demanded to speak with whoever was in charge. Lisa met them at the main gate, with Jake and several other humans beside her. Zara watched from a window, her heart pounding. "This is a legal colony under Earth protection," Lisa told the Hegemony commander. "You have no authority here." "We have reports that stolen property is being harbored here," the commander replied. "Escaped slaves worth millions of credits." "We harbor no property," Lisa said firmly. "Only free people who choose to live here." The standoff lasted for hours. The Hegemony soldiers wanted to search the colony, but the humans refused to let them. Zara could see ships from other human colonies arriving to support Sanctuary Prime. During the crisis, something unexpected happened. Zara found herself helping to organize the evacuation of the most vulnerable residents. When a group of recently freed children became separated from their caregivers, she stayed with them and kept them calm. When an elderly alien man fell and hurt his leg, she helped carry him to safety. "You're a natural leader," said Dr. Wright when she saw Zara directing people to the shelters. "I'm just helping," Zara said. "That's what leaders do," Dr. Wright replied. Finally, after 8 tense hours, the Hegemony ships left. Their commander had received orders from higher up not to start a war with the humans over a slave colony. The political cost would be too high. As the all-clear signal sounded, Zara realized something important had happened to her during the crisis. She had not hidden or cowered in fear. She had helped protect others. She had made decisions and taken action. "I want to join the network," she told Jake that evening. "Are you sure?" Jake asked. "It's dangerous work, and you've already been through so much." "I'm sure," Zara said. "I know what it's like to be a slave. I know how it feels to think no one cares if you live or die. If I can help even one person escape that, then I want to do it." Jake smiled proudly. "Maria would have liked you very much," he said. That night, Zara made a decision that would change her life forever. She decided that being free was not enough. She wanted to help others find freedom too. 6 months after joining the Liberation Network, Zara had become one of their most valuable agents. Her blue skin and 4 arms let her blend in at slave markets without anyone suspecting she was free. Her knowledge of how slave operations worked made her perfect for planning rescues. She stood on the bridge of Jake's ship, looking at the star charts on the main screen. They were planning their biggest mission yet, a rescue operation on Terminus Station, the most heavily guarded slave facility in the sector. "Are you sure about this?" Jake asked, looking worried. "Terminus Station isn't like the other places we've hit. It's a fortress, I'm sure," Zara said. She pointed to a section of the station on the screen. "My brother Danny is in cell block 7. I've waited long enough." 3 days earlier, Zara had received incredible news. Her little brother, who she thought had died when their world was conquered, was alive. A spy in the hegemony had sent word that Danny was being held on Terminus Station, scheduled to be sold to the fighting pits on Kragner Prime. "We'll get him out," said Lisa, who had come along for this mission. "But we need to be smart about it." The plan was complex. Zara would go to the station pretending to be a slave being delivered by Jake. Once inside, she would disable the security systems and signal for the rescue team. Jake and Lisa would lead a group of liberation ships to extract as many slaves as possible. "Remember," Jake said as they prepared to dock at Terminus Station, "if something goes wrong, you get out. Don't try to be a hero." Zara put on the fake slave collar they had made for her disguise. It looked real, but had no shock function. She hated wearing it again, even as a fake, but it was necessary for the mission. "I'll be careful," she promised. Terminus Station was everything they had heard it would be. Massive, dark, and filled with guards. The slave pens were deeper underground than any Zara had seen before. The security was tight, with multiple checkpoints and scanner systems. Jake played his part perfectly, acting like a slave trader delivering property. The guards barely looked at Zara as they processed her entry into the system. To them, she was just another piece of merchandise. Once inside the slave areas, Zara moved carefully through the corridors. Her heart broke seeing so many people in chains, but she had to focus on the mission. She found the security control room and used the technical skills Jake had taught her to hack into the station's systems. The hard part was finding Danny. Cell block 7 was huge, with hundreds of cells. Zara searched frantically, looking at face after face, until finally she saw him. Danny had grown taller in the years since their capture, but she recognized his green eyes immediately. He was thinner than she remembered, and there were scars on his arms, but he was alive. "Danny," she whispered through the bars of his cell. He looked up, confused at first. Then his eyes went wide with shock. "Zara? But you're dead." They told. You are dead." "I'm very much alive," Zara said, working on the lock of his cell. "And I'm here to get you out." "How?" Danny asked in amazement. "How did you escape?" "A human bought me and set me free," Zara explained quickly. "Now I help other people escape too." She got his cell open and pulled him into a hug. For a moment, she was just a big sister holding her little brother again. But their reunion was interrupted by alarms. Something had gone wrong with the security system, and guards were coming to investigate. "We have to go," Zara said urgently. They ran through the corridors, but there were too many guards between them and the exit. Zara found herself making a choice she had not planned for. She could get Danny to safety, or she could help the other slaves, but she could not do both. "This way," she told Danny, leading him toward the main slave pens instead of the exit. "Zara, what are you doing?" Danny asked in confusion. "Something I should have done a long time ago," she said. Zara used her security access to open every cell. In the block, hundreds of slaves poured out, confused but eager for freedom. She activated the emergency beacon that would call Jake and the rescue ships. "Listen to me," she shouted to the escaped slaves. "Human ships are coming to take you to safety. Follow the blue lights to the docking bay." But the guards were closing in fast. Someone had to hold them off long enough for the slaves to escape. "Take Danny and go," Zara told a group of former slaves who were organizing the evacuation. "Get him to the human ships. What about you?" Danny asked, grabbing her arm. "I'll catch up," Zara lied. She knew someone had to stay behind to make sure everyone else got out safely. The next few minutes were chaos. Jake and Lisa arrived with their rescue ships, just as hegemony reinforcements showed up. There was a fierce battle in the docking bay. As the liberation ships tried to evacuate as many slaves as possible, Zara fought alongside the other rescuers, using her knowledge of the station to help people find escape routes. When a group of children got trapped by falling debris, she helped clear a path for them. When an elderly slave collapsed from exhaustion, she carried him to safety. In the end, they saved over 400 people from Terminus Station. But the price was high. Several liberation fighters were captured, including Zara. As the hegemony guards dragged her away, Zara saw Jake's ship escaping with her brother safely aboard. She smiled, knowing that Danny was free. That was what mattered most. Something unexpected happened. Instead of being taken to a prison cell, Zara was brought before the station commander. "You're the one they call the Blue Ghost," the commander said. "The slave who became a liberator." Zara said nothing. "We know all about you," the commander continued. "And we know about your human friends. This rescue operation was impressive, but it will be your last." "I doubt that," Zara said calmly. The commander looked confused. "You're captured. Your network is broken. How can you be so confident?" Zara smiled. "Because you don't understand what freedom really means. You think it's something you can take away by putting someone in chains. But once a person truly knows they're free, once they understand their own worth, you can never make them a slave." Again, at that moment, explosions rocked the station. Jake had not abandoned her after all. He had come back with reinforcements from 3 different human colonies. In the battle that followed, Zara escaped with the help of her friends. But more importantly, the raid on Terminus Station sent a message across the galaxy. The liberation network was stronger than anyone had realized. Months later, Zara stood on the bridge of her own ship, the Freedom's Dawn. She was the captain now, leading her own rescue missions. Danny worked beside her, having chosen to join the liberation effort after his rescue. "Incoming message from Jake," her communications officer reported. Jake's face appeared on the screen, smiling from the bridge of the starbound Wanderer. "How did the mission go?" 87 people freed from the market on Vega Station," Zara reported proudly. "All safely delivered to the sanctuary worlds." "Outstanding," Jake said. "You know, when I first bought you on Kepler Station, I never imagined you'd become one of the best liberators in the network. You gave me something I had forgotten I had," Zara said. "Hope. And once I remembered how to hope, I had to help others." "Remember, too. Your parents would be proud," Danny said quietly beside her. Zara looked out at the stars beyond her ship's windows. Somewhere out there, more people were trapped in chains, waiting for someone to show them that freedom was possible. She had work to do. "Set course for the outer rim," she told her crew. "There's a slave market on Deneb Station that needs our attention." As her ship jumped to hyperspace, Zara thought about how much her life had changed. She had gone from being a terrified slave to being a confident leader. She had learned that freedom was not just about being unchained. It was about having the courage to help others break their chains too. The scared girl who had stood on the auction block was gone forever. In her place was someone who understood. The most important truth Jake had taught her, that every person deserved to be free, and that sometimes freedom was worth fighting for. Zara touched the place on her neck where her collar used to be. The skin was smooth now, unmarked by the symbols of slavery. She was free, and she would spend the rest of her life making sure others could feel that freedom too. The Liberation Network had gained its most dedicated fighter, someone who knew exactly what it meant to be saved, and who would never stop. Saving others in return. In the cargo hold of her ship, medical supplies and food waited to be delivered to newly freed slaves. In her quarters, communications equipment stayed ready to coordinate the next rescue mission. And in her heart, the flame of freedom burned bright enough to light the way for anyone still lost in the darkness of slavery. Zara had learned the greatest lesson of all, that being truly free meant using that freedom to help others find theirs.